It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Friday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. Kind of another slow news day, if I'm being totally honest. Not a lot going on. But we do have a big story for you, and it's one that I actually haven't seen anybody talk about yet. And I did a quick search on X for all my followers, or rather people that I'm following, to see if anybody was discussing this. And I literally have not seen one person mention it yet on social media. And so tonight we're going to talk all about this brand new TikTok deal, which is finalized this week. So as you know, when Trump got into office last year, he negotiated a deal. And this is part of a bigger deal. It's part of a trade deal with China. It includes the forced sale of the U.S. business of TikTok to the United States. So TikTok has over 1 billion users, but it only has about 200 million U.S. users. And amid concerns about their data, as we know that is the pretext for the sale, concerns about whether the Chinese government has access to U.S. users' data. As part of this broader trade deal with China, we forced the sale of the U.S. portion of the business from the Chinese parent company ByteDance to a newly created private entity, a consortium of private companies led by Oracle, which is controlled by Larry Ellison. And we talked all about Larry Ellison, and there's this huge effort underway by him and his son David to acquire more media properties. TikTok is one of them, but it also includes CBS News as part of the Paramount deal. They're also looking to acquire Warner Brothers. And as we've discussed with CBS, the acquisition of CBS by Larry Ellison and his son comes with some personnel and editorial changes. They acquired Paramount. Included in Paramount is CBS and CBS News. It's one of the major news networks. And immediately when they acquired CBS, they changed the editor-in-chief position there. They hired Barry Weiss, who's a hardcore Jewish Zionist, very pro-Israel. Well, now that this consortium controlled by Oracle has acquired TikTok's U.S. business, they've made a personnel change there too. And again, I haven't seen anybody talk about this yet, so you can call it perhaps an exclusive, at least my analysis of it. They have appointed to control this newly created entity, which you could say it's U.S. TikTok. It's a pro-Israel Jew named Adam Presser. That is your brand new CEO of TikTok. So when you look at this newly created entity, TikTok US, it is now a separate business. It functions independently of ByteDance. And although ByteDance is on the board, the governance is separate. The new CEO is going to be this guy who has spoken at the World Jewish Congress, who's spoken on a number of other panels about anti-Semitism on TikTok. Guy's a pro-Israel Jew. And his name is Adam Presser. So we'll talk all about it. We'll talk about who this guy is and what he's about. We'll read through some articles about him. We're also going to talk tonight, if we have time, about Trump's latest comments about Renee Good, the left-wing protester who was shot and killed by ICE at the beginning of the year. Get a load of this. Trump says it's a tragedy. He says it was a mistake. He said ICE makes mistakes and tragedies happen and it's so horrible. So what is that all about now? This is maybe the worst thing he said since he got into office, and I'm going to tell you why. We have been talking about this unfolding situation with ICE and how they've been confronting protesters and how there has been this tit-for-tat escalation between law enforcement and protesters. And for me, the fundamental principle here is a question of confidence. In any conflict, in any game, in any competition, it comes down to a question of confidence, of certainty, assurances. These are the kinds of words, maybe you could say credibility encapsulates all of them. And what I mean by that is, when you're trying to win a war against these demonstrators, against protesters, we are trying to enforce the law, and we need there to be an understanding that the law will be enforced. An election was won, a mandate was given, and now there is a policy that we're deporting all these illegal aliens, and it's just going to have to happen. You have left-wing protesters that are resisting this. They're trying to shut it down. They are trying to stop it. They are in the wrong. They are breaking the law. They are impeding law enforcement. They're impeding the popular will, the popular mandate, which was given during the election through the popular vote. Now, these people should be crushed, but if they are going to win, they are going to need to succeed on the front of willpower. If they can stand there in front of law enforcement, and if law enforcement backs down, then even though they are in the right, even though they are enforcing the law, even though they have a political mandate, they will lose if they lack the political will to follow through, if they lack the resolve, the conviction to follow through. Now, whether the protesters succeed is a question of whether they believe that they can overcome law enforcement, whether they believe that if they simply occupy the space, if they stand tall, if they don't go home, again, it comes down to if they believe that law enforcement will blink first, if there is not confidence that law enforcement will carry out their duties, then they will be emboldened, they'll stick it out, they're going to hang out there. And the longer that they believe they can win, the longer they're going to be out there, the more they're going to escalate. Now, we've talked about how in the past couple of weeks, Trump has come out and undermined his own law enforcement policy. He came out a couple weeks ago, and there was an article in Axios that said that he and members of the administration want to change the strategy. Not a vote of confidence. Then he comes out the next week and says, we're really just going after the worst of the worst, the violent offenders, the people with a criminal rap sheet. Again, undermining the policy. Well, today he comes out and says Renee Good was a tragedy and a mistake was made. Now you're not just undermining the policy, now you're undermining your people. Now you're undermining your own personnel. And what message does that send to both sides? The message it sends to law enforcement is, if you make a mistake, maybe Trump doesn't have your back. So what are law enforcement going to do? They're going to try not to make mistakes, which means they're going to lean out. They're going to lean back rather than lean in. They know if they mess up, maybe Trump won't have their back. Maybe they're going to get prosecuted. Loss of confidence means loss of follow-through, lack of follow-through, loss of resolve. And the message for the protesters is, if we keep pushing, they will blink. If we show up and demonstrate as they did today in freezing temperatures, if we show up and impede law enforcement, if we die, we'll become martyrs. We'll undermine the enemy's resolve. There's an air of inevitability. Huge problem. So we'll talk about that in greater detail. And that'll be our show. We're going to get into all of it. Before we do, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store. I have my brand new USA quarter zip. Check it out. This is high quality stuff. And I'm not just saying that. Some of the merch that we've done in the past, we've been doing merch for a long time, and it's been sort of, some of the products are better than others. This is very high quality. 80% cotton, 20% polyester, U.S. flag on the side. Very high quality, stitched on. And then we have the embroidered USA logo right here. And it looks pretty sharp. I mean, look at this. Look at this collar, zipper. It zips all the way up. little product demonstration. It does zip all the way up, in case you were wondering. So when it gets really cold, yeah, you could theoretically zip it all the way up. In theory, it is possible. In practice, too. If it gets cold, if you don't mind that, you can zip it all the way up. You can zip it all the way down. Maybe if you're in like a tropical climate, you get a little warm. And I think it looks sharp. Navy, red, embroidered, USA logo, American flag. I think it looks great. What do you guys think? I think it looks great. Goes great with the hat. You know, this is a whole fit. This is a whole ass fit. So check that out. Fuentes.store. This is now my #1 bestseller on the store. We've sold over 1,000 of these already. They've only been here, I think, for a few days. We already sold over 1,000 of them. It's my #1 bestseller for the year so far. People love them. People are loving this product. And get it in time for spring. They ship in 2 to 4 weeks. You're going to want to wear this at Easter. You're going to want to wear this at the wedding party, or you probably wear a tuxedo to a wedding, but I don't know if there's like something happening around it, whatever kind of spring event you got going on. This is the perfect fit. It's a great conversation starter. People are going to say, wow, I love that quarter zip. Where'd you get it? And you could tell them, I got it on this island. I got it on this island. They were giving them away before the feds showed up. So check it out, Fuentes.store. Remember to subscribe at americafirst.plus. Check that out as well. Get access to our whole archive. Okay, we're going to dive into the show. One other thing before we get into the news. I don't know about you, but everywhere I look, I've been hearing about this winter storm that's coming this weekend. Have you heard about this? It's all over TikTok. It's all over X. It's all over the news. Apparently, there is this giant winter storm. It's going to take over the entire country. Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, all the way up to New York. It's this huge storm. They're saying there's going to be an inch of ice. There's going to be snow, freezing temperatures. And the prediction is that this is going to destroy infrastructure, that the power is going to be down for days. And people are going to be stranded in their homes with no electricity and no transportation and the rest of it. And I've been hearing all about this storm, and that's not really newsworthy for me because I do a political show. It's not really a political issue. But I've also seen on my timeline, and again, you tell me if you've seen the same thing, but apparently there is now a large contingent of people that believe that the storm, this winter storm, has been created by the government. Have you seen this? This has been all over my timeline for the past few days. And it's the same group of people that's talking about Charlie Kirk being killed by Israel. It's the same group of people that says that acquiring Greenland is a Jewish plot. It's the same group of people that is criticizing the Venezuela thing. Now they're saying that this winter storm is actually a government manufactured plot to do what exactly? Who even knows? At this point, who even knows? What is the theory? What's their end game? What's the goal? Who is behind this? Where's the evidence? Nobody knows. But I've seen this taking over my timeline. People are filming the sky, and you see the condensation trails in the sky, colloquially called chemtrails. And people are filming the sky, and they're saying, everybody, keep your eyes on the sky. Everybody, be on the lookout. Watch what's happening in the air. And you see these condensation trails. You see the water vapor in the sky, and people are saying X marks the spot. That's where the government weather machines are creating this winter storm. That's where government airplanes are spraying heavy metals in the air to create a winter storm. And I see a lot of this stuff is getting tons of engagement. People are posting this, reposting this. One guy in particular I saw, he said that the government is making natural disasters happen on the weekends because the government needs commerce to keep going. He said the government, have you ever noticed all the extreme weather happens during the weekend? And the reason being is because the government needs to keep everybody on the hamster wheel. They need commerce to happen. So the government is artificially moving all the storms to the weekend. I guess this is separate though, because this is going to bleed into the work week next week. It's going to bleed into Monday. And they're saying the government is creating a winter storm. I saw Ian Carroll did a clip. He said, what a coincidence, a winter storm in the middle of winter. It's about fascist mind control and it's about vaccines. And I've been saying this for a long time, but it has jumped the shark. This is just derangement. This is JQAnon is what I'm calling it. Since when did talking about Israel and Israel's lobby and Jewish billionaires, since when did this become a QAnon level conspiracy? I've been doing this forever. I have paid the price. I have made the sacrifices. I have gone through all of it. And I did not go through all of this for it to be hijacked by fucking insane people and for it to turn into QAnon. Because now it's like this group of people that purports to believe in a Jewish conspiracy, now they just believe in every conspiracy. Now everything, literally everything is a conspiracy. A winter storm in winter is now a conspiracy. I see people that are 50 years old that they're just some, I don't know, nut job on Twitter, and they look at the weather forecast and they go, this doesn't look right. Doesn't look right. Since when did you become a meteorologist? People see they see this map of this giant winter storm. They see the, I don't know what you even call that, but they see the map of this incoming weather and they say, yeah, that doesn't look right. I've never seen anything like this before. Something's up. I think this is a government plot. And you go, winter weather happens. It happens all the time. I live in Chicago. I've been alive for a quarter of a century. It happens. It gets cold in the winter. It snows in the winter. You get freezing temperatures in the winter. It happens. It's a weather pattern. Yes, you get winter storms in the winter. That is not a coincidence. Oh, wow. Oh, you believe the government narrative, huh? Oh, wow. You really think it's all a coincidence? Yes, I think that winter storms happen in winter. I think that cold temperatures happen in the winter. I know that's crazy. So I've been seeing this stuff lately, and I'm just wondering, when does it end? And I'm tempted to say this is in itself an operation to discredit other conspiracies, but then I find myself doing the same thing. Maybe there's just a lot of dumb people out there. Maybe there are just a lot of really stupid people out there that will literally believe anything. It's like a Dunning-Kruger thing. They don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. They think they know everything, about ballistics, about meteorology, about geopolitics, about oil, whatever. They see something and their first thought is, yeah, that can't possibly be true. And it's a conspiracy, and it's this. And I'm like, me personally, I don't want anything to do with that stuff. That stuff has jumped the shark. Ian Carroll, you can have them. You can have all these numbskulls. Yeah, man, everything's a conspiracy. Red Lobster's a conspiracy. Applebee's, winter weather, Greenland, Charlie Kirk. Everything's a conspiracy. Oh, except for, of course, and here's the best part, except for, of course, the Jews themselves. You know what's funny about this? So these interlopers are totally stepping into the Jewish space. These interlopers like Candace, who have been paid by the Jews their whole lives, people like Ian Carroll, who are, like I said, these are hippies. These are people from Burning Man. They've never been into the subject before. They step into it and they start talking about all this other stuff, time travel, Project Looking Glass, Freud and Aleister Crowley and weather machines and this kind of stuff. And they believe in every conspiracy, but when you push them, the one that they don't believe in, ironically, is that there's anything going on with Jews. I saw a clip from Ian Carroll the other day. He's on with Roseanne Barr, who is a Jewish supremacist, pro-Israel, MAGA supporter. And he's sitting with Roseanne Barr, who has said about America that she can't wait for America to be destroyed because America's abandoning Israel. And she said that everyone that is against Israel will be begging for forgiveness and they're cursed and they'll be destroyed. She's a total psycho. And I see this clip of Ian Carroll on her show, and he goes, "It's not Jewish people. Every religion has bad people in it. It's these Satanists. And, you know, just because someone's Jewish, it doesn't matter. They just happen to be Jewish." And you go, wow, so you believe in weather machines and time travel and energy weapons and all this stuff, but you don't believe that it has something to do with, that anything has to do with Jewish people. And same with Candace Owens. She did a retort to me on her show last week, and she's talking about time travel, and Charlie Kirk was like the X-Men. He was groomed by aliens because he was psychic as a little boy, and they had to kill him because he was going to manipulate the space-time continuum. I'm not exaggerating. That was her show. She does a rebuttal to me, and she says, you know what, Nick Fuentes? She goes, he wants to make everything about Israel versus America and Jews versus Christians. She said, but it has nothing to do with that. It's about Satanists performing ritual sacrifices against the good people in all the religions. She said, talking about Jews and Israel is a distraction from the real conspiracy, which is clockwork elves and ancient aliens and time travel. Same thing with Tucker Carlson. He's done entire shows about chemtrails and aliens. He says that ancient aliens from the antediluvian civilization, the pre-flood civilization, are on the floor of the ocean piloting giant autonomous machines. That is what explains these UAP unexplained phenomena. And him too, he says, oh, well, if you're obsessed with Israel, that's insane. Anyway, my next guest is going to tell us about chemtrails and ancient aliens. Welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. I mean, you could almost create a compilation. I wonder if you could do that. I've literally seen Tucker on his show. He goes on the show and says, if you make hating Israel your whole personality, that's creepy and weird and hateful. Some people take it too far. I'm not pro-Israel, but, you know, I don't hate anybody and this. And then he goes, anyway, I'd like to welcome my next guest who's going to tell us about antediluvian civilizations, ancient aliens, and chemtrails. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being here. And you go, hang on, what the fuck is going on? Because this collection of people now, Tucker, Candace, Ian, they're in this sort of triangulation. They insist that, yeah, time travel's real, ancient aliens are real, chemtrails are real, demons control everything, but do not look at the Jewish people behind the curtain. But don't pay any attention to Israel. Don't notice how many Jews are overrepresented in the institutions. Don't look into their religion and what they say in their holy book. Something's off there. Something's not right. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I've noticed it. And I would like to draw a very hard line. I'd like to draw a very hard line and say, if you're a kook, you're on one side of it. JQAnon is on one side. I don't want to be a part of JQAnon. I'm not a JQAnon guy. I'm America first. I'm right wing. I'm Catholic. I believe that space is real. I believe the earth is round. And I think that we have a fifth column, a Jewish oligarchy. They operate like gangsters and they have too much influence over our country. Like that, those are basically my beliefs. I'm a race realist. I think that the races are real. Identity matters. Our country's becoming less white. That's a problem. So I'm on this side of the line. I am pro-white, Jewish critical, and I draw a hard line. On the other side of it is where you find time travel, weather machines, ancient aliens, directed energy beams, and all this other deep underground military bases, whatever else you want to say, and people that are going to hide behind this weird indifferentist satanic thing where they say, no, it's not Jewish people, it's satanic infiltrators that have infiltrated all the religions, which seems to be what they believe on that side. I draw a hard line, JQAnon and JQ. JQAnon, time travel, all that, and then just straight up JQ. I don't even like JQ that much, but I would differentiate it from JQAnon. Anyway, but that's that. I just have to say that because I've been pushing this in my group chat, in the America First Plus group chat, but also my group chat with my friends. I don't know how much more of that I can take. It's actually becoming very frustrating because we have worked so hard on this show to push the truth about what's happening in the country, only for it now to be diluted by all this other junk. And now, what is it to be woke on these subjects? And by woke, I don't mean like left wing, I mean to be aware. What does it mean to be woke on these subjects? Now it's like you have to check every box, believe every nut job conspiracy, otherwise you're in on it. And you have these total amateurs, they basically just take a look at anything that comes across the timeline and say, oh yeah, that doesn't look right, that doesn't add up. It's like it's a winter storm. Last week, there were these wildfires in Patagonia, and one guy said, oh, it was the IDF. No evidence, but people took it and ran with it and said, oh, this wildfire in the other side of the world is an Israeli plot. Oh, this winter storm in Tennessee is an Israeli plot. Greenland isn't. Time travel is real. It's ancient technology. They groomed him because he's a psychic kid. And you go, okay. What are we doing again? What is the point of all this? And you know what I think the point is? I think the reason it's being elevated, when Candace met with Erica Kirk, and then she kind of stepped back from a lot of her claims, all the comments said, you know what? I'm done with politics. It's too weird. I don't know what to believe anymore. I think maybe if there is some intentionality behind any of it, it's to get all of us to walk away. It's to push it to the craziest conclusions, to push it to the craziest place. And then you just look like a complete psycho. Because what we talk about on the show is not psycho at all. I'll tell you what's happening in the world. There is an armada headed to the Middle East to topple the Iranian government because Israel wants to become a global power. And they say that. Netanyahu said it this week. He said Israel has ambitions to become not just a regional power, but in some ways a global power. And what stands in the way is Iran and their Islamist ideology, their proxy network, their nuclear hedge, their missile capability. And Netanyahu is coming to the United States to plead with Trump to go to war with Iran. And it looked like we were locked and loaded, ready to do it a couple weeks ago, or I guess it was last week, back down at the last minute because we didn't have a big enough force package. Well, now we're sending an aircraft carrier, we're sending F-35Cs, we're sending all kinds of other military hardware to get ready for a war. Okay, that's real. That's not crazy. That doesn't require any kind of leap of faith. That's real. And that is a discrete, tangible agenda. It is being pushed by powerful people here. It is being pushed by a particular country. Like, that's not crazy. That's not far-fetched. It's not fantastical. It's not supernatural. and it's sourced. There is a, what is the word? There's actual evidence there. There's actual proof to back it up. There's a warrant, as you would say in a formal setting. And then you get people in the midst of this buildup in the Middle East. It's sort of like the perfect comparison, I would say. It's sort of the perfect juxtaposition. While you're watching an armada head to the Middle East to topple the Iranian government, which is what Israel has wanted for 50 years, people should be talking about that. Instead, they're talking about weather machines. They're filming the sky saying chemtrails are causing a winter storm. The government wants to do this for vaccines. I don't even really see the connection there. You want to talk about vaccines? Why don't we talk about how at the World Economic Forum, there was a former FDA bureaucrat who was there, and he said we should have never called the COVID vaccine a vaccine. He said because the purpose of it was not to immunize or prevent transmission, it was actually a treatment. Like, that's real. I can believe that. That's real. That makes sense. That is scientific. That is bad. Like, there are real things out there. There is a true truth movement. There is an authentic truth movement. But let's look at what is real. What's real is we're going to war with Iran. What's real is at the World Economic Forum, they admitted the COVID vaccine was a therapy, not a proper vaccine. And they lied, like that's a bombshell. Then you have this whole other side where people go, it's going to get cold out. The government is doing that because they want a mind control system. And you go, okay, so now you lost me. The last thing I'll say about it is what's really irritating is, okay, there is weather manipulation. That's true. And it's called cloud seeding. And it's been around for a long time. And I believe in that because there are companies that are dedicated to this and they do it all the time. They try to manipulate precipitation. Okay. If you want to make the case that there are chemtrails, I don't believe in that, but let's say you want to make that case. If you want to make the case that this winter storm is a government operation, again, I think that's far-fetched. Then make the case. Show the evidence, earnestly, scientifically, but the refuge of every conspiracy theorist now, I don't know if you noticed this, but they're always just like really sarcastic and snarky. It's always sarcasm. It's always some kind of shit-eating grin, snarky. Oh, yeah, so that's totally legitimate. Oh, a winter storm is about to roll through. Yeah, I totally believe that's not a government operation led by HARP. It's always like these little drive-by, drive-by sniper shots, like name-dropping a conspiracy theory. It's always with this snarky little tone, always with this little sarcastic riff. If you want to make a conspiracy theory, bring in an expert, show the evidence, show the data, admit that you might be wrong. Admit, if we're assessing how certain you are or how probable it is that you're right, admit how confident you are about your theory. But it's never that. It's always like, no. We presume it's a conspiracy. Everything's a lie. We're always being lied to. The government's lying about everything. So they're lying about this, and the rich want us to die because they hate us and blah, blah. And it's always like I'm above it all. I know better than you. I'm snarky. A little snipe, drive-by shot, name drop some esoteric thing. And that's the part that I really hate. You want to get me to believe a conspiracy theory? Okay, give me my 2-hour documentary and show me all the evidence. Don't give me a little drive-by snarky tweet that says, the government's always out to get us, blah, blah, blah. That's just irritating. That just makes me want to hit you in the face. That's just ignorant. So anyway, now I'm just venting a little bit about that because I don't know why it's been on my timeline, but I've been seeing one tweet after another, people talking about chemtrails. And I guess it's because I saw one of them and I linked to it. It had like 15,000 likes, but I linked to it And then I'm sure they just started showing me every single tweet about chemtrails. But that kind of thing is just like a disease. I've said this since the beginning of the year. We have to make a concerted effort to step outside from that. If you see a Twitter account that is American Communist Party, we're not communists. If you see a Twitter account that has a bunch of Muslim shit in the bio, we're not Muslims. If you see a Twitter account that just believes in every conspiracy about alternative medicine or weather control, you got to tune that out. We're not into that. This is America first. This is for Americans. It's anti-immigration. We're in favor of American power. We're a Christian movement. We acknowledge that Jews will never see the light of Christ. They'll never have access to God because they rejected Christ. They have too much power in our society. They cannot help but use it for evil because they don't have access to God. That's where we live in. That's the area that we live in, that we inhabit, and we have to circumscribe that and protect it. Excuse me. As I see a lot of people being lost to this crap, and it's a lot of older people that don't know any better. It's a lot of older people that are basically psychic victims of the loss of confidence in the media. They don't believe in the New York Times and CNN. Now they'll believe literally anything. They're psychic victims of Tucker Carlson tonight, of the Tucker Carlson network. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get into our featured story here tonight, and we'll get into this TikTok story. So I want to just read some of the comments in the live chat. Let's see. Somebody says chemtrail deniers in the lowest circle of hell with sodomites and usurers. I don't know if that's sarcastic. The earth is definitely flat. Bro got the call. Bro got the call. Winter is a Jewish plot. Admits cloud seeding, denies chemtrails. Shill. That's great. I'm coughing because of all the chemicals that are being sprayed on us. I just wonder, though, if you believe in chemtrails, so who's doing it then? Are all the pilots covering it up? Because for them to have chemtrails over all of America all the time, wouldn't that cost like billions of dollars? Who's paying for that? And who's doing this? Wouldn't there need to be like tons and tons of pilots that are going to flight school to fly airplanes to poison America? And so what happens? Does like a guy in a black suit knock on their door and say, we have a contract. We're going to pay you $300,000 a year. No questions asked. We need you to fly these planes and drop the payload. Don't ask what it is. If you do, we'll kill you. And they're pressing like a button and all this stuff is spraying out of the air. Surely they've heard about this and there's no whistleblowers. Excuse me, where's the whistleblower that's going to say, I was a chemtrail pilot. I am guilty. I dropped the aluminum. I dropped the heavy metals on Earth. Are there whistleblowers? Got the call. Yeah, from the chemical headquarters, the CQ. Big chemical. All right, we're going to move on. I want to get into our featured story tonight. Like I said, this is something I haven't heard anybody talk about so far. And this concerns the sale of TikTok from China to the United States. As you know, last year, the TikTok ban went into effect. And we all know the story there. Shortly after October 7th, all of these pro-Palestine hashtags went super viral on TikTok. And this was contrary to every other social platform. Every other social platform in America, in the world, Facebook, Instagram, I believe even Twitter, every single social platform was pro-Israel. The top hashtags were pro-Israel. The algorithm favored pro-Israel sentiment, except for TikTok. And on TikTok in November and December 2023, you had millions and millions of users posting stories about the genocide in Gaza, about the disproportionate use of force, criticizing the Israeli war in Gaza. And so the American Jewish community started to freak out Now, the timeline is important here, okay? This is November and December 2023. This is a month, 2 months after October 7th. This is when the airstrikes began. It's when the ground incursion began. And the Jewish community in the United States lost their mind. They said, we have to do something about this. They characterized this as an unprecedented rise in anti-Semitism. And so the ADL, the North American Jewish Federation, other Jewish groups got together and they started to lobby politicians. They started to lobby Republicans, they lobbied Congress, they lobbied presidential candidates, and they said, we need to wrest control of TikTok from China. And once under American control, we can regulate it and we can censor it. And some of the narratives going around at the time, they said that the longer a user uses TikTok, the more time a user spends on the platform, the more anti-Semitic they become. They literally got it down to a science. They came up with all these quantitative reports. They created all this data, and they said there's millions of anti-Semitic posts. And a user that spends an hour a day on TikTok is this much more likely to be an anti-Semite, and so on and so forth. This is how it goes. Jewish community gets together, they voice their concerns, they express their anecdotal experience, their outrage. The various Jewish researchers get together from World Jewish Congress, from ADL. They create these statistical analyses, these reports. Then the Jewish lobbying groups furnish Congress, furnish the politicians with the reports. You don't believe me? In the GOP primary in the spring of 2024, Nikki Haley, who is a well-known neocon, very close with Miriam Adelson, she went on the Republican debate stage and said those statistics. She went on the stage and said, the longer a user is on TikTok, the more likely they are to be an anti-Semite. The more time they spend on TikTok, the more anti-Semitic they become, according to these groups. This is literally how it works. In the spring of 2024, Congress passed a law banning TikTok. Specifically, it said that either TikTok will be banned in the United States or China can sell TikTok to the United States, and then we can work out a deal where we can keep it active in the United States. Now, they said that they were banning the platform under the pretext that this had to do with privacy concerns and national security concerns. TikTok is owned by its parent company ByteDance, headquartered in Beijing. And so they said, as they did years ago, that if the United States has this giant user base and all these American users have the TikTok app on their phone, well, the app is harvesting all their data from their device. It uses their camera, their microphone, accesses their location, other app data, device data. And if TikTok is extracting all the data from the device and the company is headquartered in Beijing, well, the Chinese Communist Party can always make a covert, clandestine data request, and they can order ByteDance to turn over all that information to the Chinese government. And so all that data about American users, which is everything, who they know, where they live, their search queries, their contacts on their phone, what they're doing, what they're saying in real life, if it has access to your camera and microphone, their passwords, I mean, you name it. These apps can extract a lot of data. Well, the concern is then that poses a national security threat. This is the pretext. Now, the pretext is basically nullified because what a lot of people don't know about TikTok is that ever since 2020, all of TikTok user data in the United States is hosted inside the United States. There was a big push to ban TikTok in Trump's first term in 2019 and 2020, and they said the same thing. They banned it on government devices, and the compromise that they reached with TikTok is that U.S. user data would be hosted by an American company inside the United States, and that company is Oracle. Oracle has been hosting all of TikTok's American user data for the last 6 years. So that's sort of a fake concern. Now, they played that up, and theoretically, it's possible that the Chinese government, because it has jurisdiction over ByteDance, could get ByteDance to acquire the data somehow. As long as ByteDance owns the data, even if it's hosted in the United States, who knows? Maybe there's some way that they could get it. I don't find that to be a compelling argument. The real reason is that TikTok was out of control. And in a situation where America is backing Israel in this conflict, and TikTok is becoming a source of potentially soft power influence, either from a foreign country or China itself, some third-party foreign country or China, well, then maybe that poses some threat to American interests. Maybe that's more likely. Either way, there was heavy lobbying from the government of Israel, from Jewish groups. When Congress banned TikTok, the Jewish community took credit and they celebrated. North American Jewish Federation, other Jewish groups took a victory lap. They said, we did this. It was our lobbying efforts. We were trying to fight anti-Semitism and we succeeded. The law passed. Shortly before Trump got into office last year, TikTok was banned for a couple of days. They passed the deadline. TikTok was unwilling to sell to the United States, and so it was banned for a few days. Before Trump got into office, he worked out a deal where they would delay the implementation of the ban. Trump issued a waiver where TikTok could remain active without a deal in the United States for a certain amount of time while Trump negotiated a deal with China. Eventually, they worked out a framework agreement, and the framework agreement was part of a broader bilateral trade deal, and it would have ByteDance selling TikTok's U.S. business to a consortium of U.S. companies. It's a newly created private entity. It's going to be made up of Oracle and a bank in the United Arab Emirates. I believe it's one of those Gulf countries. Some other banks and other private equity players are involved. And nobody's going to have a majority stake. It's going to be split up a bunch of different ways. But they've created this newly created private sector entity. It's a group of investors. They're going to buy TikTok. I think they valued it at $15 billion. And now not only will the U.S. data be hosted here, but the data will also be owned by an American entity. And it's a huge deal. There's 200 million U.S. users. It's sold to the United States. They worked that out some months ago. Now the deal has finally been implemented. Now, we've talked about on the show who the primary beneficiary of the deal is. As I said, 5 or 6 years ago, when the United States forced China to move the hosting of U.S. user data to America, the company that took up that burden was Oracle. So they've been a part of this since the very beginning. Oracle has been a part of this deal since Trump's first term. Oracle has been part of this negotiation since this conversation started, since TikTok became the fastest growing platform in America. And what we know about Oracle is that it is owned by Larry Ellison. And Larry Ellison, surprise, surprise, is a major proud Jew and a very close personal friend of the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's a huge supporter of Israel itself. He's a major private benefactor of the IDF. He's actually friends, not just with Netanyahu, but with the whole family. And he considers Netanyahu a political ally. So this is the guy that's been hosting the data. Now, when Trump got back into office, he finished the job, so to speak. Whereas in his first term, he got all the data into Oracle. Now that he's back in charge for the second term, he's giving the whole company to Oracle. And Oracle's playing a very special role at TikTok. So they're hosting the data. Oracle is now a 20% owner of the U.S. TikTok business. And unlike any of the other investors, Oracle has exclusive access to TikTok's proprietary algorithm. So if you know anything about TikTok, you know that what makes TikTok such an attractive platform is its algorithm. That is what makes it unique. That is what makes it competitive. That's the secret sauce. That's the thing that TikTok has that no other platform has. Every platform has emulated and imitated the short form content, the format, the swiping. You have YouTube Shorts, you have Instagram Reels, you have a similar feature on Snapchat. Even X has emulated TikTok. But the secret sauce that TikTok has is its proprietary algorithm, which is how it curates a user's For You page, how it analyzes user behavior, time spent watching a particular video, whether they like it, comment, react, and then how it populates that user's For You page with content that they are going to like. That's what makes it addictive. That's what increases the amount of time that a user spends on the platform. It's how efficient the algorithm is at finding content that the user is going to like and spend time watching. That is the advantage that TikTok has over all the rest. And so, as a part of this deal, to reiterate, Oracle owns the data. Oracle owns 20% of this newly created consortium. And unlike any other partner like Silver Lake and some of the others, Oracle, being a back-end tech company, is going to actually gain access to the algorithm. They're getting the secret formula. TikTok is giving them the algorithm, and because Oracle is a partner in this newly created US TikTok company, Oracle gets to modify the algorithm. Oracle gets the algorithm. Oracle gets to modify the algorithm for the US business. So US TikTok is getting a whole new management here. TikTok US is going to be a whole different app. And understand, a lot of people are looking at this deal, and you might look at it at face value. You might look at it on the surface and say, well, Oracle is only one partner among others. Oracle only has 19%. Oracle's not really going to be in charge. But again, they own the data, they own the algorithm, they own a large share, the largest share, and they're going to be running the algorithm, which is the essence of TikTok. And if they're modifying it, then that means they're effectively controlling what TikTok is. They are exercising direct control over what you see on the platform. So you think about a company like Meta or Alphabet, you think about these other social platforms, and you could say, well, I may own stock in Facebook. I don't control what's on Facebook. I own stock in Google. I don't control what's on Google. Looks like we're dropping some frames. Are we good? We have this problem every night now, this ghetto platform. Okay, are we back? I think we're back. We only dropped 300 frames. We should be okay. I think it dropped out for a second. Okay, I think we're back. Anyway, so as I was saying, Oracle is the indispensable player here. Now, the reason I bring this up, of course, is because if Larry Ellison is who he is, if he is a political ally of Netanyahu, if he is a proud Zionist, a supporter of the IDF, and the rest of it, and if Oracle is controlled by Larry Ellison, and if Oracle is now going to be controlling what's on your For You page, well, that poses a conflict of interest. Remember the timeline. Why was TikTok banned in the first place? Forcing the sale of TikTok to Oracle. TikTok was banned in the first place because of lobbying by the Israel lobby. Lobbying by the Israel lobby in the aftermath of October 7th. So you could say that this happened from start to finish, basically to stop people from criticizing Israel on TikTok, to insulate the American user base potentially from manipulation by other countries, insulate the American user base from content preferences of global users. We're effectively creating a Jewish firewall around TikTok. Powerful Jews got together after October 7th and said, there's too much criticism of Israel's war in Gaza on TikTok. So the Jewish groups heard this, created their statistics, lobbied the government to ban TikTok. Banning TikTok forced the sale. Trump got into office on the back of pro-Israel billionaires like Ellison, like Miriam Adelson, and others, like other big tech players. He secured the sale, and his friend Larry Ellison got the lion's share of the leverage over the platform. Now that they control the algorithm, they can solve that problem that they had from 2 years ago. That's the play. And as I said, this is part of a bigger push. Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison, recently acquired Paramount Pictures, which includes CBS, among other properties. What did they do at CBS News? They fired the editor-in-chief and they replaced him with Barry Weiss, who's another pro-Israel zealot. She fired their nightly news anchor and replaced him with Tony Dokapil, another Zionist Jewish zealot. This is the push. Now they've done the same thing at TikTok. So here's the story. The deal has been completed. It's a done deal. TikTok is now a distinct American entity, and they've appointed a new CEO. His name is Adam Presser. And sure enough, not only is Adam Presser a Jewish Zionist, but Adam Presser was actually hosting a forum of Jewish activists in December 2023 who were complaining about anti-Semitism and Israel criticism on the platform. This is a story. It says, quote, President Trump and TikTok announced on Thursday that the company had formed a joint venture to keep the video sharing app operating in the U.S. under new American leadership. The company said Adam Presser, who has been serving as TikTok's head of operations and trust and safety, will be the new CEO of TikTok USDS joint venture. Presser has worked at TikTok for almost 4 years and was previously a senior executive at Warner Brothers. TikTok CEO Shou Chew will be a director of the newly formed venture, which will run as an independent entity. TikTok USDS joint venture will operate under defined safeguards that protect national security through comprehensive data protections, algorithm security, content moderation, and software assurances for U.S. users, said the company. Trump hailed the deal in a Truth Social post on Thursday, stating that the company would now be owned by a group of great American patriots and investors, the biggest in the world. Now, this is a story from the New York Times in November 2023. This is 1 month after October 7th. This is about your new CEO. It says, quote, more than a dozen Jewish TikTok creators and celebrities confronted TikTok executives and other employees in a private meeting, urging them to do more to address a surge of anti-Semitism and harassment on the popular video service. The meeting, held on a video call for about 90 minutes, and joined by more than 30 people in all, including actors Sacha Baron Cohen, Deborah Messing, and Amy Schumer. It was led by Adam Presser, TikTok's head of operations, and Seth Melnick, its global head of user operations. These celebrities and creators described, sometimes with fiery rhetoric, how TikTok's tools did not prevent a flood of comments like Hitler was right or I hope you end up like Anne Frank under videos posted by them and other Jewish users. Mr. Cohen, who did not appear to have an official TikTok account, said, quote, what is happening at TikTok is it is creating the biggest anti-Semitic movement since the Nazis. He criticized violent imagery and disinformation on the platform, telling Mr. Presser, shame on you, claiming that TikTok could flip a switch to fix anti-Semitism on its platform. Mr. Presser of TikTok, who is Jewish and based in the United States, was largely conciliatory in the meeting. He said, quote, obviously a lot of what Sacha says, there's truth to that. Referring to Mr. Cohen's remarks that social media companies need to take more action. He later said there was no magic button to address all the concerns raised. He said the use of the tools to perpetuate hate was another important flag for the company to follow up on. He said, quote, we can do better. This is your new CEO of TikTok. Do you know that he also attended the World Jewish Congress Symposium in 2025 and discussed with a Jewish panelist about how they were going to shut down anti-Semitism on TikTok? Look it up. Adam Presser, World Jewish Congress. He was there and did a panel interview about the same thing. This is now the new CEO of TikTok under this newly created entity under Larry Ellison. Can anybody deny that this is the eighth front in Israel's war against Gaza, just as Netanyahu said? They said we have 7 fronts in the conflict: Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. They said the 8th front is U.S. public opinion. They said that is where we need to focus. It's an information war. And what have they done since Trump has gotten into office? Well, first of all, they shut down the college campuses. That was the first thing they did. RFK Jr. and his best buddy, Rabbi Shmuley, RFK Jr. and the Linda McMahon at the Department of Education, they declared that anti-Semitism was a national emergency. They said actually it was like a disease. They literally said there is a pandemic of anti-Semitism. What did the Department of Education do? They went to Harvard, they went to Columbia, they went to UPenn, and they threatened to withhold billions of dollars in federal grants and loans unless they complied with certain terms under an agreement that among them included that there would be anti-Semitic police on the campuses, literally private security guards that are there on the campus to monitor whether there's anti-Semitism. They shut down pro-Palestine groups. They deployed people there to monitor the level of anti-Semitism. More security for Jewish students. There was actually a payout to Jewish faculty, a cash payment to every single Jewish member of the faculty of the university because of the civil rights violations that were taking place. What was the purpose of this? It was to send a message to every university in America. If there is a single pro-Palestine protest, if there is an anti-Semitic incident, this will happen to you. That was the message. They said, we are going to make an example out of UPenn. We're going to make an example out of Harvard. We're going to make an example out of Columbia. We're going to take away all their money. We're going to make all the money dry up, threaten the solvency of these institutions. At one point, they even said, we'll ban all foreign students from America. We will bleed you dry. We will crush you. We will force you to implement these over-the-top restrictions. The government is going to oversee your Middle East Studies Department curriculum. You're going to have to hire security, going to have to make a payout, all these things. And you do it to a handful of the most prestigious and richest campuses, and the message goes out, you better keep your campus in line. You better impose these restrictions yourselves without the government asking, because if we have to ask you, you're not going to like it. That was the purpose. So step number 1, they shut down all of the campuses in America. There will be no demonstrations. There will be no student groups. There will be no dissent. They shut down every U.S. university and college campus, telling them there's going to be no free speech about this issue in higher education. Then number 2, what happened? The government approved the sale of Paramount Pictures to Skydance. That's Larry Ellison, his son, David Ellison's production company. So David Ellison now owns this huge media conglomerate, which, like I said, that includes CBS News, that includes Paramount Plus, the streaming service, that includes a number of channels, well-known properties, the Paramount Studio. What did they do at CBS News? They brought in Barry Weiss. They bought her out for $150 million at the Free Press, and they brought her in as the editor-in-chief. And what has she done since she got in? She's helped the Trump administration, and she has pushed pro-Israel propaganda. Every story that comes out of CBS News about the Middle East is totally lopsided in favor of Israel. When there's a protest in Iran, the U.S. government says, well, maybe there's 3,000 casualties. CBS News says it's 20,000, could be 40,000, could be more than that. So now they've gained control of one of the major networks. What else? Larry Ellison is using his connections to try to expand even that conglomerate and get Skydance Paramount to swallow up Warner Brothers. So now they'll do the same thing to CNN, which is owned by Warner Brothers. They'll do the same thing to HBO Max. which is owned by Warner Brothers. They'll do the same thing to Warner Brothers Studios and all the properties they own. Larry Ellison is using his juice in Congress, his juice in the White House, his influence, to try to get the government to shut down Netflix acquisition of Warner Brothers and give it instead to Skydance Paramount so that they have literally the biggest media conglomerate in America under their control on behalf of Netanyahu. Then the next step, Trump puts pressure on China to sell us TikTok. Trump is overseeing that process. He's negotiating it. Who does he give the U.S. business to? Who does he give the algorithm to? Who does he give control over content moderation and the algorithm to? He gives it to Larry Ellison, the dad. He gives it to Oracle. And what does Larry Ellison do at TikTok? They put in place a new CEO. He's a Jew. He actually hosted the panel for TikTok in November 2023. He hosted the panel at the World Jewish Congress in 2025 about how to curtail Israel critical content on the platform. That's your eighth front strategy. The campuses, CBS News, CNN, Hollywood, TikTok. It is an across-the-board, full-spectrum effort so that everything that has happened in the past year could go off without a hitch. We go to war with Iran, nobody cares. We go back to war with Iran, nobody cares. We go to war in Yemen, nobody cares. That's the playbook. And I don't know how anyone could even deny it at this point. That's the latest step. And we're only 1 year in. Think about it. What's the date? It is January 23rd. We are exactly 1 year in to the second Trump administration. Now, why do you think Trump won the last election? Why do you think Trump won in 2024? Do you think that Trump won in 2024 because the people had enough? Trump won because people were tired of the woke crap. Trump won. Trump didn't win in 2020. He was cheated out of it. So what do you think happened in 24? You think they decided not to steal the election? Or do you think that a decision was made? A decision was made after October 7th that they needed a Republican president, and maybe they preferred Ron DeSantis. And then maybe their second choice was Nikki Haley. And then ultimately, when Trump won the Republican primary, they realized, well, at the end of the day, a Republican is better than a Democrat. And little tech and Miriam Adelson and Netanyahu and all the rest of them reluctantly went for Trump in the spring and summer of 2024 because they knew that a Republican was going to be their best bet to get all this stuff through. I think that's obviously the case. Biden wouldn't shut down Harvard, UPenn, and Columbia. Do you want to know why? Why would Joe Biden not weaponize his education department against the Ivy League universities? Because the Ivy League universities are controlled by the left. And those are the Democrats' political allies. So you're never going to see Biden threatening to withhold $400 billion in federal grants and money over years to these institutions because Biden is tight with Claudine Gay, because Biden is tight with the presidents of these universities. That's why. Why do you think that they went for Republican over a Democrat? Because Biden isn't going to force China to sell TikTok to Oracle because Larry Ellison is a booster for the Republicans. Larry Ellison's an ally of Netanyahu. Biden's not going to lean on China to sell it to Larry Ellison and do these things. Biden's not going to give the green light for the free press to take over CBS News. And then on top of that, HBO and Warner Brothers and the rest of it, because the Free Press is a center-right publication. Their allies currently run, or did run CBS News. Their allies run HBO. The left runs Hollywood. So Biden and the far left and the Democrats are going to be much more reluctant to do this handoff from the Jewish left and the other far left that isn't Jewish to these pro-Israel right-wing Jews. That's why they had to have Trump, had to have him in office. That's why the media largely stood down. That's why all the money went behind Trump. That's why the influencer network was propped up in favor of Trump. That's why they stood down and let him win the election, so that all these benefits could accrue to them. And think about it this way. The promise of Trumpism ultimately is an anti-corruption promise. This is the sickest part. At its core, when Trump says drain the swamp, America first, make America great again, politicians are all talk, no action, what is he really saying? What Trump is saying is that we need Americans to take power again, as opposed to foreign lobby, foreign interest groups, foreign special interests. That's the core of Trumpism. Trump wins this election. He got shot. He got indicted. They were going to throw him in jail. All these things have happened. Trump got in office, and the expectation from the voters is that he would fire 50,000 people through Schedule F. He would get rid of all these left-wing bureaucrats and fill it up with right-wing people. That he would use the bully pulpit and use federal money to get rid of DEI in federal contractors in the private sector. And maybe we'd have a changing of the guard in those institutions as well. But what has actually happened? Have Americans been empowered? No. Who has been empowered here? It's these people. Who has taken over TikTok? A pro-Israel Jew. Who took over the media? A pro-Israel Jew. Who took over Harvard? A pro-Israel Jew. Think about it. Harvard was run by a black lesbian. Now it's run by a pro-Israel Jewish doctor. Is that good for us? No, that's good for them. Out of the frying pan into the fire. We went from a far-left, anti-white race communist to a pro-Israel liberal Jewish doctor at Harvard. Imagine if we had some right-winger in charge of Harvard. Imagine if we had some white Catholic or white Christian in charge of Harvard. It's a Jewish doctor? Are you kidding me? Same story at CBS News. Okay, your friend Larry Ellison's son now owns CBS News. Can we have one news network that is run by a conservative? Trump could have pulled those strings. Hey, Larry Ellison, if you want this TikTok deal, you better put one of our guys in charge of CBS News. Who do they put in charge? A Jewish, liberal, pro-Israel lesbian. That's Barry Weiss. Think about it. Harvard was controlled by a left-wing, black, race communist. Now it's a pro-Israel, liberal, Jewish doctor. CBS News was controlled by some left-wing WASP. Now it's controlled by a lesbian, liberal, pro-Israel Jew. This Trump movement is supposed to be the ascendancy of a middle American radical. This is supposed to represent the ascendancy of the forgotten man and woman. It's very clear what this is about. How about at TikTok? This is a U.S. entity created by the Trump administration. TikTok U.S. is a creation of the Trump administration. You could have anybody run it. You could have anybody in charge of the algorithm. You could have anybody be the CEO. Why not make the CEO Alex Jones? Who should be the CEO of TikTok? Wouldn't it be awesome if Alex Jones was running TikTok? Wouldn't it be awesome if it was some Christian, some white person, some right-wing person? Maybe not. Maybe it's Thomas Massey. Maybe it's Rand Paul. Who knows? It's going to be some liberal Jew from the previous regime. Now, you can count on your new Jewish CEO of TikTok, your new Jewish president of Harvard, your new Jewish editor-in-chief of CBS. You can count on these people to reliably support Israel. You cannot count on them to reliably be right-wing or conservative or look out for American radicals, look out for the American far right. So who benefits from this administration? It's not us. And I feel sorry for the psychic victims of this psyop, like John Doyle, like Tate Brown, like these guys. It's my favorite expression on the show. Take your own side. What has Israel gotten out of this administration? Everything that they want. everything that they want. We bombed Iran. We bombed the Houthis. We gave Israel $20 billion. We gave Netanyahu 5 visits to the White House. We gave them TikTok. We gave them CBS. We gave them everything that they wanted. In the end, we're going to give them regime change. We're going to serve them Syria on a silver platter. We're going to serve them Lebanon on a silver platter. We're going to serve them Saudi Arabia on a silver platter. And there will be more media conglomerates. There will be more of all of this. We serve them Harvard on a silver platter. What do we have? 250,000 deportations. It's nothing. 250,000 deportations in 2025, and they're already backing down. 250,000. 10 million illegals in 4 years. We haven't even started on the wall. Is there construction of a border wall? No. 250,000 deportations, and they're already walking it back. Last week, Trump said, we're not going to job sites, and ICE makes mistakes, and they need to chill out. They're already walking it back. No new wars. We're at war in Ukraine. We're about to go to war in Iran. It's about to restart in Gaza. We bombed Nigeria. It's endless. What have we gotten out of it? They extended the corporate tax rate again. Corporate tax cut in 2018, corporate tax cut extension in 2025. And they paid for it by cutting Medicaid. They cut $800 billion, pardon me, in Medicaid to pay for another 10 years of corporate tax cuts. Where's the middle class tax cut? Where's an infrastructure bill? Where's the stimulus? Where's our tariff dividend? Think about it. They have gotten everything. We have gotten nothing. Nothing. They got Harvard. They got CBS. They got TikTok. They got Iran. They got Syria. They got Lebanon. They're going to get another 10-year MOU. They got Marjorie Taylor Greene's head on a plate. They got everything that they wanted. We got nothing. And what do? You negotiate against yourself. You make excuses for this. You cope. You rationalize. You do apologetics. People are on the timeline saying, I'm trusting the plan. I'm not going to chimp out and get mad. I'm going to be a good and I'm going to make excuses. People argue with me. It's fine. It's glass half full. Everything's okay. This is perfectly fine. It's not fine. People say, well, what's the alternative? How about not voting for this? But sometimes you need to see it spelled out like that. Like, seriously, think about the alternative here. You could have picked anybody to run Harvard. You got him by the balls. You said to Harvard, we are going to take all your money. All your money. You will go bankrupt. We will take all your foreign students. Had him by the balls. You could have had anybody. It's Alan Garber is the new president. He's a Jewish liberal doctor. Same for TikTok. You could have had anybody be the president of TikTok. It's this guy, Adam Presser. You could have had anybody run it. It's a government-controlled entity, practically. It's a government-created entity. So, this is my frustration. We're 10 years into the MAGA movement, and there has been one beneficiary, and that is this group. It's not us. We're not better off. 10 years cumulatively. You know what has happened to the forgotten man and woman? We have been assaulted by the BLM crime wave. We lost our jobs and position in school because of the vaccine mandate. Our neighborhoods have been taken over by Venezuelan immigrants because Trump didn't build the wall and then gave these people temporary protected status. We're 10 million illegals worse off than we were before the Trump movement. We have no wall. Inflation is worse than ever. And at the minimum, the prices have not gone down. So our buying power has been destroyed. Savers have been wiped out. Trump said at the World Economic Forum, I could make housing more affordable, but, then I would hurt homeowners. So in 10 years, who has benefited from this administration? Firms that employ illegal aliens, people that own stocks and houses, which is the rich and old people, the state of Israel, Jewish media conglomerates. Like these are the beneficiaries. People say Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, well, we seem to be going in the wrong direction. Also, it's been 10 years. I know Rome wasn't built in a day, but I think they made a lot of progress in 10 years, actually. Rome could do a lot of things in 10 years, and that is how long it has been. So I told you earlier this week, it's very demoralizing. And what's demoralizing is that every white person, every Christian, every patriot, every America firster should be standing shoulder to shoulder and saying, we demand more. We want better. We expect better. But instead, we are having to fight our own people who are telling us to just relax. Oh, bombing Iran isn't regime change. Oh, the Epstein files are fake anyway. Oh, well, they closed the border even if they're not deporting anybody. And you go, dude, like you have been raped. You are raped and you're not fighting back. Don't resist. Don't struggle. It'll only make it worse. Like we are being raped. And I'm out here saying, poke him in the eyes, pull his hair, bite him. And they're saying, shh, don't fight it. Don't resist. It'll be worse. What are you going to do? Resist? You are the raped. You are the raped. Adam Presser. Goodness gracious. Does it get more Jewish than that? I'm so glad we elected Trump so that TikTok could get worse. TikTok at one time gave birth to Andrew Tate. Now it's controlled by the Jews. Enough said. Under Joe Biden, TikTok made Andrew Tate the most famous person in the world. Now it's run by the Jews, and it's worse than ever. There's a lesson in this. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say. I might save this Renee Good thing for Monday. Let's take a look. Let's see what we got. Somebody says 271,000 deported. How fitting. Very good. Let's take a look. We'll see. Someone says, well, Tate is controlled too. Okay, missing the point. Sort of missing the point. Let me explain something to you. First of all, Tate is not controlled. Tate is under duress. There's a difference. Tate is under duress. He has a gun to his head now. But in 2022, he was saying everything and anything. And either way, he was a net positive. At a time when every other social platform was censored, TikTok wasn't, and it enabled the rise of one of the most right-wing e-celebs that we have ever seen. He's certainly more based than Tucker. He's more based than Candace. And TikTok enabled his rise because it was lax in its moderation. And that is because it wasn't American. That's the point. Now that Trump has won and brought TikTok to the States, well, now it's controlled by Jewish moderation policies, and it got worse than it was under China in a Democrat administration. That's the lesson. So anyway, talk about missing the point. All right, let's take a look. I really love Red Bull, man. I love the taste of Red Bull. Sometimes I wish there was like a lower caffeine version of it because I wish I could just drink this all day. Sugar-free, tastes delicious, filled with vitamins and essential nutrients. It just has so much caffeine, you can only drink one and you got to sip it slowly. At least for me, I don't know about you. Anyway. They're delicious.
All right, let's get right to it, man. So we're going to start off with what Nick finished off with, and it's this Israeli control, Trump. What that actually hit me when he finished off by saying, what exactly have we gotten out of this Trump administration? And somebody like me, bro, I keep telling y'all, I voted for him after not voting for the previous two elections, largely based on I just hated the direction of the country as far as where we were going with this woke culture. Can't define what a woman is. You think it's okay for boys to be playing sports against women, like all pushing all this LGBTQ stuff, drag queens reading books to kids in schools. You got books in schools describing how little boys pleasure other little boys sexually. Like it was just moving in a very demonic direction. Now, a lot of people will argue that it is still moving in a demonic direction, just in a different way. Now, I've been one of those people that has been very critical of Trump early on because I just saw the direction of where things were going. And when you're not, this is why I always say, don't be a fan of somebody. It just allows you to very clearly see, hey, Trump, you said this, now you're doing that. You said this, now you're doing that. You acted as if you were talking tough on all these things, but now you're getting bullied by Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. And when Nick said, take your own side. I like that. Take your own side. And I would even go into it perhaps a little bit differently, where it's take not necessarily your own side, but take the principled side. It's not us versus them. It's these are my principles. My principles may land me on this, with this group today. They may land me with that group tomorrow, but I'm being led by my principles. When we hear this saying of walk by faith, what exactly is faith? It's a set of principles, how to live our life, right? So it's not like we're walking in just blind. No, we're walking very much with our eyes open, with the vision very clear, because we're being led by principles, not by emotions. And those emotions come about when we become fans of certain people. Perhaps that's one of the reasons, I'm sure, why Nick is so disappointed in calling Trump out, because he's disgusted at his hero that he has acknowledged is moving in this type of way, getting bullied the way that he's clearly been bullied. And once again, it gets to, what have we gotten out of Donald Trump's election? Israel has gotten everything they want out of this administration. That's what it seems like. Now, if you ask them, it's like, people are always going to push the limit, right? You give an inch, they'll take a mile. That's like anything. So if you ask somebody who's Zionist or pro-Israel, part of the Jewish lobby, whatever, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. They may say, hey, we didn't get this, or we didn't get that, or we want to destroy Iran, or we want to, it's like, damn, think about it. Just in a matter of months, what has happened? We got Jared Kushner up here with PowerPoint presentations at the World Economic Forum, like doing development projects on people like nobody owns the land. Like Jared Kushner acting like he's Christopher Columbus and just landed in Palestine, and now he's just going to develop like, oh yeah, there's nothing here. Oh yeah, there's people here, but no, none of us. Offering investment opportunities. How are you offering investment opportunities for somebody else's land? But neither here nor there. And if you're saying that it's not their land, then when a lot of people have presented that open air prison argument, with the ethnic cleansing, with the not having the right to return, all these different things, having their property taken away, which is a violation of U.S. Or international law after the Geneva Convention. But Israel has just done everything that they wanted, and they've gotten anything that they want out of Donald Trump. Violate and disrespect him at every turn. Hey, there's a ceasefire. Before he wakes up the next morning, they're already back bombing. Donald Trump says, oh, yeah, I'm not going to let Israel annex the West Bank. Enough's enough. They're already building civilizations out there. They voting on it while J.D. Vance is out in Israel. Like, So once again, who's benefited from Trump's election? Obviously, Israel, firms, big money, the agriculture industry, the elites, Silicon Valley, big pharma. All of these elites have benefited in one way or another. The farms and the elites that have agriculture or other different areas, Trump jumping out here, giving all these H-1B visas, where we're going to deport them, but then bring them right back. He's completely changed his tune. And there's nothing wrong with changing your tune, but when you're changing your tune only because you're benefiting the elites, and turning your back on the people that actually voted for you to actually make America great. To actually, hey, a lot of people came here illegally. It's an unfortunate situation. Democrats need to be blamed for a lot of this, for opening these borders, for hopefully bringing in their next group of victims that they can rely on to vote for them. But we don't have the infrastructure, and it's hurting actual Americans. So no different than if you have a family, you own a home. You can't just be inviting 100 people home for dinner and then your kids don't eat. You can't do that. You're responsible for Americans. We're voting. This is what we voted for you for. So a lot of these different instances, we see Donald Trump getting bullied, changing his tune, whether it's the Epstein files, another one that I would say has immense pressure from Israel. People that own homes, people that own stocks, those are the people benefiting. Trump is saying, hey, we can't decrease the prices of homes because that's going to be taking wealth away from the people. Like, damn. Like, what are we setting this thing up for? Like, how are we setting up our next generations? And then y'all wonder why we're not having kids. Y'all wonder why we're not in relationships. How can we be? We can't even buy a home, can't even afford to live. Got to have a damn roommate. So then the Jewish media conglomerates, we're seeing this. Like, these are things that are happening right in front of our face. The TikToks, whether it's CBS and Barry Weiss, all of these things are happening right in front of our face. And I want to highlight the fact that, and this is what my boy BK and I, if you tune into the live shows, then you know exactly who BK is. But this is what we said about 2026, man. We're not going to assume that anybody's ignorant or naive. People know exactly what's going on. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand exactly what's going on. Matter of fact, it seems like we're living in days and times where the higher your education just means the more you're indoctrinated. It is clear what's going on. It is very clear what is going on. And it's to the point where it's almost like people are hiding in plain sight. It's like there's certain people, I'll give you the Miami Beach example, where the mayor of Miami, Stephen Minor, I believe that's how you pronounce it, he tried to get rid of a lease. He tried to kick a theater out of Miami Beach because they played a documentary that was created by Israeli and Palestinian journalists that he said was, it's one-sided. And based on it being one-sided, because it was describing how Israel is demolishing the homes of the Palestinians. And he said, because it's one-sided, he's trying to get them kicked out of, like, what are we doing? But then is anybody surprised? Because think about it like this. They tried to destroy Kyrie Irving's career for tweeting a documentary that most people didn't see. I saw it and I was like, damn, like, I don't even know why y'all made a big deal of this, because it seemed like they were just trying to break Kyrie. Now, whether that was because Kyrie was actually telling other players in their private group message, hey, we could start our own league during the pandemic, or whether they thought that this could go somewhere. But when you actually looked at the documentary, I'm sitting here like, bro, this spent like 5 minutes talking about Jewish people. This was something about Black history. It wasn't even produced that well. Y'all kind of gave it more attention than it probably would have gotten if you would have just let Kyrie send the tweet. But they tried to destroy this man's career for simply retweeting a documentary. Stephen Minor's trying to get a theater kicked out of Miami. Like, and actually, I just recently heard, I don't know, I haven't confirmed this, but they were saying that there were Jewish people in Miami who were actually opposing Stephen Minor. So apparently there are some people, and we've highlighted a lot of the rabbis that opposed Zionism in general, but apparently there's a lot of people that are saying like, yo, all this bullying y'all doing, y'all are making our lives hard. That's what happens when you keep flexing your muscle, picking on people, and in various areas, censoring certain people. Like, bro, we're seeing the play. Where before it used to be just kind of like a conspiracy theory that, hey, Israel or Jewish people, Zionists, they control everything. Now they're actually the people that are saying that they control everything and getting called out for it, like the mayor who then sent police officers to a lady's home that actually served our country in the National Guard. She was in politics in some way or another, but she had people sent to her home because she called out the mayor for acting as if, oh, everybody's welcome to Miami, but this is the same mayor that tried to get people kicked out of a theater for showing a documentary that he didn't like, that he didn't agree with. Even though we're seeing what's happening right in front of our face. So it's not even like it was a lie. He just said it was one-sided. It's like, well, Palestinians aren't demolishing Israeli homes. So how would you like it to be? Like, what do you want us to say? Do you want us to say, oh, yeah, they should demolish the homes because of October 7th and Hamas, so therefore all the Palestinians should lose all their homes? Like, is that what you, like, is that the balance you're looking for? So he flexes his political power. It has to be some sort of violation of political power. You get sent to a home. It's like you're clearly showing how much power you have. You're clearly showing that all of these quote unquote conspiracy theories, when people used to say that, hey, the Jews control the media, the Jews control Hollywood, the Jews control the politicians. At an Israeli conference, I don't know if y'all saw it the other day, I was bugging out when we played this on the live show, where you had the host, he was sitting down with Miriam Adelson and then somebody else that apparently has a lot of influence when it comes to the politicians based on the money that they're giving. And the host at an Israeli event this had to be on purpose. Like, they had to reprimand this person afterwards. And I can't see them ever hosting an event like this, but look it up on X or something like that, where the host is asking Miriam Adelson pretty much like, I don't want to say word for word, but this is what I heard in the exchange. This is what I recall from the exchange. Hey, Miriam and such, the other gentleman. And I think he asked the gentleman first, and he said, how have you guys been able to control a lot of these politicians and influence them? We know you give a lot of money, and that has to be done. But how you guys are able to leverage your power and control a lot of these politicians, like, we want to learn more about that. And the guy's like, he kind of passed it off like, oh, well, she gives a lot more money than me. Miriam gives a lot more money. What I give is here. What she gives is up here. So maybe you should be asking her. And then Miriam Adelson says, oh, I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to get it, because she's embarrassed by it, because it just exposes exactly what everybody says. So now it's to the point where you're taking over control of user data on TikTok. And while Nick was talking about it, and I'm glad that Nick broke it down the way that he broke it down, I'm over here in the background arguing with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is trying to act like they're oblivious and naive. I'm acting like it's a person. But the information that they're giving me, oh, well, Larry Ellison owns Oracle, but Oracle doesn't own TikTok and this. So I'm like, well, damn, for a company. So pretty much the government bullied TikTok into allowing Oracle to be able to access all of our information on TikTok, when the main thing that Larry Ellison, Bibi Netanyahu, a lot of these others, I mean, Bibi Netanyahu was out here. He said this is the eighth front of war. The eighth front of war, censoring the social media platforms. And they've got social media influencers. Of course, everybody knows about this $7,000 going around. Who knows how true it is? But clearly, they're trying to control the narrative. This is no different than, I just saw a video, I think Tucker played it, where it was a video of somebody, it may have been at the World Economic Forum, I think it was, where the guy was saying that, oh yeah, we need to make sure that in these Muslim countries that they're being taught from the exact textbooks and being taught the right history. It's like, whoa, what? Who determines whether it's the right history? And this is why this also leads to a lot of anti-Semitism, because I don't know if y'all are aware, but there's a lot of people now that are revisiting World War II and understanding, like, damn, we were only taught one side of it. Damn, I grew up thinking that World War II only Jewish people died. And then you hear about the millions of other people that died, Christians and others. So it's like, hold on, how long have we been misled? So what a lot of people that I know are doing, they going and they looking at these AI translated Hitler speeches. Now, a lot of people will say, well, hey, man, like these speeches, they're not the ones that are just going to come out and say all the horrible things that were done to Jewish people, but we wouldn't even have looked at them. The problem is we feel that we were misled and mistaught and indoctrinated in a way where we just thought that Hitler was this big bad boogeyman, which he may have been. But y'all added some stuff to it and didn't give full context till now we still feel like we're misled. Y'all should have just said he was an evil person. He did A, B, and C. But y'all hid certain things, it seems like to us, and y'all can say whatever you want from that, but that's how people are feeling. And perhaps people would have never even looked into this stuff if it wasn't the muscle that y'all are flexing right now, trying to force people to see things from a particular perspective. You had the lady of Meta saying like, hey, we're going to, it's okay to show certain things that happened, after October 7th. But some people who are putting out videos are making it seem like they're compassionate or sympathizing for Palestinians, and we're going to censor those videos. But the other ones that show the destruction that was occurring by Hamas, those videos are okay. It's like this is happening right in front of our face. It's happening right in front of our face. So we're seeing all this stuff occur. I know I went off. I didn't even use any notes, wrote all these notes. Let me keep going. From CBS and Barry Weiss to Tony DeCopel, you get rid of your news anchor and you bring Tony DeCopel. Well, the only reason I know Tony DeCopel is because he's the one that said that Ta-Nehisi's quotes his book when he went out to Palestine and did research on it, wrote a book describing how certain people are treated there. He said that this book wouldn't surprise him to be found in a radical, pretty much insinuating that this could be in a terrorist backpack. Well, perhaps it may be in a terrorist backpack, but let me ask you this. Is it going to convince that quote unquote terrorist, to do anything more than what Israel has done to Palestine? Oh, but that's not terror. It's only terror when it happens to the Israelis or to Jewish people, but not when it happens to Palestinians. Everything from them bullying these colleges. You got Miriam Adelson and Pam Bondi jumping on stage bragging about how much money they settled with these colleges, bullying them because they had their students exercise their right to free speech, but because it made some of the Jewish kids uncomfortable, they bullied them and got millions of dollars out of them. Yeah, you're allowed. Free speech may make you feel uncomfortable. There's a lot of things that people may say about me or Black people that I may be uncomfortable with. So what? It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to say it. And what I've realized over the years, a lot of the things that people used to say about Black people that made me uncomfortable, you know who's saying that same stuff now? Me. Because I've removed my emotions from it and approached it from a logical standpoint and realized that the people were trying to victimize me, a lot of these Democrats and liberals, and saying, well, you deserve to feel that way. You didn't know. It actually doesn't fix the problem. What fixes the problem is calling out the BS and addressing it, how you can address it without begging somebody else like the Democratic Party to fix your issues, because they never have intentions to fix your issues, because then you will no longer need them. Duh. Sounds like Big Pharma, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to give you this pill. We base the pill off of the plants, but we can't give you the plants because then we won't be able to profit off of them. And we just want to manage your condition so that way we can continuously sell you this product. But then when you develop the side effects from this product, now you're going to not only take this medicine, but you're going to be able to take this other stronger medicine that will be able to continue profiting off of as well. Like this type of stuff, bro, we see what's going on. This is why I told y'all 2026, ignorance and being naive. I'm not assuming that anybody's ignorant. This is 1 + 1. I assume that everybody understands what 1 + 1 is. Now, shout out to Terrence Howard. I don't want to get into that conversation, but y'all get what I'm saying. So let's keep it moving. All right. So Nick, earlier on in the show, he called out like the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, the Ian Carrolls, for all the conspiracy theories. Is it okay if I don't get into that? Like, I get what Nick is saying. If you have a conspiracy theory and you're talking about this winter storm, have some information around it, have some facts around it, present certain things that are not just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that something sticks, but actually present something that makes sense, that can actually prove some of your argument or prove your hypothesis one way or another. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't done that. I enjoy the fact that Tucker is willing to talk about certain things that are a bit out there that a lot of people may not be willing to report on. I like when you start talking to whistleblowers about aliens and stuff like that. I like that. Now, obviously, you got to come with some credibility with it. And that's one of the things that Nick has been complaining about Candace with. But, you know, Candace does documentaries, real documentaries, like, for example, the George Floyd one, the BLM one. Those are ones that I learned a lot of things that I didn't learn or didn't know before. So I don't really want to get into that because it's one of those things where I just don't know enough about it, you know, and I know that there's also a personal vendetta or personal beef that Nick has with whether it's Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, or Tucker Carlson. So, yeah. But one thing that I will say about the winter storms, and Nick, after saying all these things, he actually did follow up by saying that, you know, obviously they do have certain control of certain things with the weather. I forget exactly what he mentioned. Hold on. Let me see. He said that there's with the cloud seeding. So he acknowledged that there's weather manipulation. And a lot of people, we acting like we didn't hear this said about Hawaii, some of the California fires. So it's not that far-fetched. And I know, and this is perhaps why when it comes to technology, whether it's the iPhone, I remember the iPhone, them saying like years ago, the iPhone was able to have all these new features that were going to get rolled out. And it seems like they had to dumb these things down and slow them down, because if they know that Americans are aware of all the things that we have the capability to do, like the government or the elites, with the technology, then probably we'd be saying that all this stuff is a conspiracy. And it may be. It may be. So there's that. But what it ultimately comes back to me is that it's just the lack of trust with the government. So I don't even blame the people for having all these conspiracies, because think about all the conspiracies that have come true. Think about now they're at the World Economic Forum and they're saying, yeah, they should have never called the vaccine a vaccine. It wasn't a vaccine. It's like, wait, what? Like, we just going to say that and nobody address it? No news stories addressing it? After all of y'all were villainizing everybody who had questions about it, after they admitted that they were censoring certain things, they jumped out there. Remember Mark Zuckerberg said that Biden and Kamala, they said that, or he said that they were censoring certain things that could be on the platform as far as with 2020 and the jab. It's like, wait, now this man says this and we're not going to have all these stories. We're not going to run it back and use the same energy that we had in villainizing people, blaming them for the murders of your family. These people that don't get the jab, we're not going to double back and address that? Of course not. So this is why people have these thoughts, because it's such a distrust with the government. We see what's going on, even though we are so fickle in seeing things one way one day and then a totally different way, depending on who we are a fan of and what gang political affiliation we have to. Because let's not also forget, regarding that jab, is that Donald Trump was in office when the jab was being developed. He was the one trying to get it released as soon as possible, while all the Democrats were saying, nah, we can't have that. It's too fast. We don't know anything about all this other stuff. Then as soon as Biden and Kamala won and got in office, it was either that day or the next day they released it. And now all the liberal leaning stations, Democratic stations, now all those people were in support of it. And it's like, wait, what? What just happened here? So it's a distrust. So even as fickle as we are as a society, it's to the point now where perhaps us being so fickle, it gave them the understanding that, or led them to believe that, yo, we could just tell them anything. We could just tell them anything. And it's funny, Tim Dillon did a piece on this when it came to CBS and Barry Weiss and Tony DeCopel, where Tony DeCopel was like crying on TV when he was in Miami talking about his upbringing or whatever. And you just see a lot of this stuff, and it's just all just fake and phony. It's right in front of our faces, and we're just seeing it in a different way right now. I was going to make another point on that, but I kind of lost my train of thought. So let's just keep it moving. I was going off on a tangent anyway. All right. So the last thing that I want to touch on is Nick speaking on, in the beginning, he was supposed to talk about Renee Good, but he never made it to that point. But when Nick speaks on being disappointed in Trump because he insinuated that the cop made a mistake, or said that there was a mistake and that mistakes are going to be made. I believe the quote was, I looked it up on ChatGPT, but Trump was saying that when you're dealing with violent people or something like that, there's going to be certain mistakes that are made. I'm not sure if that's the exact quote that Nick was referring to, But Nick says that he's disappointed that Trump even insinuated that the police officer, the ICE officer, made a mistake, because now that's going to destroy the confidence of other ICE agents in doing their job, and how Trump has now made a turn, just like he did with when he was getting accused in his first term of separating parents from their kids at the border. And then he kind of made a pivot because the imagery of it. Now it seems like the same thing. I don't think that that's a problem. We just saw Renee Good get shot for, I'll let everybody decide where they stand on it. But where Trump seems to be very clear on it, and where the Homeland Security website seems to be very clear on it, is that the officer made a series of mistakes. Shouldn't have been walking in front of the car. Shouldn't have, I forget the exact, I put it up on one of the videos that we did last week, but it said on the Homeland Security website, I believe, that you can't shoot somebody to stop a vehicle. So all these mistakes that were made by the officer, and I sit here and I wonder, like, well, Nick, like, is Trump really turning his back on the cops? Or is he just saying, like, the cop made a mistake? He didn't say, like, the cop should be locked up. So the question that I have for Nick, and for a lot of y'all that think that she was rightfully shot, and a lot of y'all that were going along with, backing Trump and backing Nick, well, Trump's changed his tune. So are you changing your tune as well? Or are you still just riding with Nick? Neither here nor there. I'm just asking. I would like, this is why we try to encourage, just look at things from a free thinker mindset, not trying to lean one way or another based on your affiliation to a person, politician, or political party. So when Nick says this, my mindset is, so if somebody does something wrong and violates policy, and Donald Trump says, hey, something was done wrong, Nick is saying that now you're showing that you don't have faith in the police officer. But let's remind ourselves, Donald Trump works for the people, just like these officers work for the people. They are public servants. So what Nick is now encouraging is, like, he's supposed to take the side of the public servant instead of the side of the people if there was a mistake made. Now, if there was no mistake made, then Trump should be based on his principle. What are the principle? What are our rules? What are the laws? What is Homeland Security's? What was this a violation of Homeland Security? Homeland Security's, I don't know, their rules, whatever you would call it, policies. And Nick is saying, like, oh, well, now that he's turned his back on I don't see it like that. So now you have to always say, oh, no, doesn't matter what the police officer did, doesn't matter what the ICE agent did, they're right. So to me, this just represents a growing frustration that Nick is having with Trump, where he feels like he's been duped, in a lot of different ways when it comes to Trump. And I've voiced these opinions as well. But Donald Trump wasn't my hero like he was to Nick. So perhaps that's playing into him being even more offended by some of the things that Donald Trump is saying or not doing than me. But I don't understand it from that standpoint. Like, if Trump believes that a police officer did something wrong, he should say that the police officer did something wrong. If Trump believes that the police officer didn't do anything wrong, Trump should say that he believes that the police officer didn't do anything wrong. So I'm just, that one for me, I was a little bit confused on. Because, and I'm not sure that Nick has actually looked on the Homeland Security website and, saw their protocol from, not walking in front of the car, like I said, to not using a lethal shot or any shot to stop the vehicle. In my opinion, the police officer was out of the way of the car, even though it happened in a split second. I can understand that. But the police officer was out of the way of the car before firing all of the shots, but definitely, I don't even think it's up for discussion, the last couple shots. So that's all I got for y'all today. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts, as y'all always do. I really, really appreciate y'all, man. I really, really appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this going. I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for Nick. I'm thankful for, him being the vehicle that has allowed me to speak to a lot of people that I probably wouldn't be able to speak to, not at this moment, not as it played out. So I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm always appreciative of y'all. Like I always say, I try to have the least amount of bias as possible on these things. And when I do, I try to let y'all know, or I do let y'all know. But even the bias that I do have always plays in. We all have our bias. So it may be creating some blind spots for me to where I'm not able to be as objective as I like to be. So y'all let me know. Give me some feedback. It helps the algorithm anyway. Even if you write a comment just saying, what's up? What's up? Where you tapping in from? That's dope as well. Everything is appreciated. I know I can't get to all the comments, but trust me, I'm looking at as many as I can, and I'm very appreciative. So on that note, I'll let y'all go. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Y'all know what my big bro Robert always says: control the algorithm. Don't let the algorithm control us. And on that note, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see y'all soon. Ew. TB, GI. TC. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family. And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that. I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.